Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So, guys, do you remember these strange waves that rippled around the globe, around the entire world, and nobody knew why? So, do you remember this? Instruments pick up the seismic waves more than 10,000 miles away, but bizarrely, nobody felt them. So on the morning of November 11th, 2018, just before 9:30 UT, a mysterious rumble rolled around the world. The seismic waves began roughly 15 miles off the shores of Mayotte, a French island sandwiched between Africa and the northern tip of Madagascar. The waves buzzed across Africa, ringing sensors in Zambia, Kenya, Ethiopia. They traversed vast oceans, humming across Chile, New Zealand, Canada, and even Hawaii, 11,000 miles away. These waves didn't just zip by, they rang for more than 20 minutes, and yet it seems no human felt them. The only one person that noticed this odd signal at the USGS's real-time seismogram displays, an earthquake enthusiast who uses the handle Reiki Pax, saw the curious zigzags and posted images of them on Twitter. The small action kicked off another ripple of sorts as researchers around the world attempted to suss out the source of the waves. Was it a meteor strike? Some have said that. Or perhaps also an electromagnetic reaction to something out in space. Was it a submarine volcano eruption? An ancient sea monster rising from the deep? I don't think I've seen anything like it, said Goran Ekstrom, a seismologist at Columbia University who specializes in unusual earthquakes. And it doesn't mean that in the end the cause of them is exotic, he notes, yet many features of the waves are remarkably weird, from their surprisingly monotone low-frequency ring to their global spread, and researchers are still chasing down the geologic conundrum. So this, if you guys remember this was pretty interesting. And what came out was the fact that perhaps these were related to a new supervolcano forming underneath the ocean in this area. And that was one of the thoughts. And so again, this is Mayotte, and this is an area that we've seen a lot of activity over the last year or so. And why do I bring this up? Well, when we look at where the area is, and let me preface this is live science, right? And this is showing changes measured by the SWARM satellite over the past 6 months that shows Earth's magnetic field is changing. Shades of red show areas where it's strengthening. Shades of blue show where it's weakening. So we could see what's going on. The magnetic field is strengthening in this area. And this is the area that includes where that vibration, where the ringing bell that went all the way across the globe occurred. Are they related? That's my question for you guys. Are they related? And you see here the South Atlantic anomaly area that extends throughout this area. And look at where things are decreasing. The magnetic field is decreasing. And again, we are in the midst of a magnetic pole reversal, excursion, shift. We don't really know right now, because the magnetic field has gone to reverse on a fairly regular basis, and the last several times it hasn't fully reversed. It is what is called an excursion when it goes to reverse but then snaps back into place. And we've seen that they've had to make adjustments earlier than expected because of the rapidity with which the North Pole, the northern magnetic pole, is moving, because it's moving rapidly towards Siberia. So what we have going on is tremendous changes going on in the whole magnetic structure of the planet itself. And this is really fascinating to see this. And, it just makes me wonder, what's going to happen? Is this going to be the new North Pole at some point? And then where does that mean the South Pole is? And then where does that mean the equator is going to be Or is it unrelated, and will things settle in a different area? But it's fascinating to see what's happening right now. So again, the red area is where it's strengthening, and Mayotte is right over here. And Mayotte is where this energy came from that rang the earth like a bell all across the globe. You can see the Hawaiian Islands way out here, and they felt it out there. The entire globe. And Earth's magnetic field is weakening 10 times faster now. Now this, and I was looking for updated info. Now you could find updated info on the movement of the pole, but, and I've heard others talking about this, they're hiding what's going on. It feels like they're truly hiding what's going on with the rapidity of the loss of the magnetosphere. Because this is in 2014, so we're almost 5 full years past this article, and where are we now? Because it's talking about how fast it's weakening. Where are we now, and what are you going to see when it weakens farther and farther down? Are we going to see scenarios that are going to remind us of some of the some of those big time disaster flicks like The Day After Tomorrow, and the like, in 2012? Are we going to see things like that occurring, or perhaps something maybe not quite that dramatic but pretty damn dramatic, pardon my French there? And what are we really going to see? Well, I mean, what we're seeing right now is, if you're paying attention, it's kind of disconcerting. So, and this is talking about the swarm, and the swarm is the satellite array that is basically monitoring the situation, the world magnetic model. And so this is more updated. This is February 8th, 2019, and this is getting into the info about how the magnetic north is moving, and it's moving very, very rapidly, so rapidly that we've had to reset, our measurement of it, our GPS, ahead of schedule, because it's moving so fast, and it's picking up speed. So how fast is it moving? How much of the magnetosphere have we lost? There's estimates it's 20-25%. What if it's even more than that already? And at what point, will it switch? And at what point might we be looking at, a true pole shift, and along with crustal displacement, where we have the potential for tsunamis and all of that type of thing to happen? And then when that happens, then, as I've shared with you guys before, people are talking 300-mile-an-hour winds. And if you believe the Chan Thomas Adam and Eve story, they're talking 1,000-mile-an-hour winds. And this gets into how the Earth has 3 north poles, and gets into the dynamics of it as well. There is what we call geomagnetic north, there's true north, and then there's magnetic north as well. And this gets into illustration of the differences between the poles. Now, the magnetic north is the one we use for our compasses and devices, and that's the one that's moving so fast that they've had to set things and correct them ahead of schedule. Otherwise, in our modern world, our GPSs wouldn't be working properly. And so what are we seeing? Well, one of the things we're seeing right now is, and this is in February, we're not in spring yet, incredible winds and incredible extremes. And so we have 131 vehicle pileup, and this is up in Wisconsin, kills 1 person, injures 71 others. Gale force winds, blizzard conditions shut down large stretches of a heavily traveled highway across the state Sunday, including I-41 in Neenah, where 1 motorist was killed, 71 others injured in a chain reaction pileup involving 131 vehicles. And so we're seeing all sorts of roads being closed. We're seeing trees down everywhere. A lot of them look to be due to some sort of illness going on, and we've questioned whether it's aluminum and barium, If it's parasitic, if it's UVC hitting the ground, because there was UVC confirmed in some locations, and that doesn't usually hit the ground, and UVC is the strongest and most deadliest of the UVs. And look at what we're seeing, and if this is just the beginning of it, it's a good idea to try to get yourself as prepared as possible for further intensifications. And so we have another atmospheric river storm, and we're hearing that a lot, aren't we? Raining down and canceling a lot of flights at San Francisco's International Airport, and delays at all 3 major Bay Area airports on Tuesday. And again, the winds, the rains, it's going to make it a little bit more harrowing as far as traveling. Coldest February in downtown Los Angeles since 1962. And I got some friends out there that have been sending me videos, and it's cold, and a lot of people are shocked by how cold it has been. And this year is so much the opposite of last year. And what we're going to be looking forward to, as far as what the Weather Channel has just come out with, is basically, if you're in the western side of the country, you're going to have a lot more winter coming. And then over here in the east, it's going to be pretty warm, and actually in the southeast, very warm. So extremes, and we're seeing it everywhere. You have the UK, warmest winter day on record. The warmest on record, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Pretty damn nice, isn't it? And so, UK is bathing in it and enjoying a pretty good winter. I mean, let's be real about it. So we have wild extremes. UK breaks all-time February temperature record, and another extremely warm day ahead today. And so this is unprecedented, as we're saying right here. Unprecedented. We have unprecedented on both ends of these extremes. Extremes is what we have. And perhaps the reason why we have these extremes is also has to do with what's going on in the core of the Earth as well. And of course, the Earth is reacting in the core to external influences. It's reacting to what's going on in the sun, and perhaps the sun is reacting to something else that's close by it and to the conditions that are around it. Everything is interconnected. Hurricane force winds cause blizzard conditions and widespread power outages in Michigan. And it's been incredible what we're seeing, the winds. And many of you made comments too, talking about the winds and saying, it's not even spring yet, because you recognize what happens in the spring. And after Croatia on Saturday, some of the wind gusts in Michigan were especially powerful, exceeding the threshold for hurricane force winds, which is over 74 miles an hour. And look at, there's videos here for you guys. I got all the links for you guys as well. Huge waves crashing on Lake Michigan shoreline. You guys, we're going to be seeing a lot of tsunamis. So you could just see that that's coming. And again, that was a term most of us didn't even know about just a little while ago. Well, it's going to get really familiar because it's going to be wind-driven tsunamis. Malta hit by worst storm since October 1982. And again, extremes. And this is in the Mediterranean. And I was sharing with you guys that I was dumbfounded looking at waves in the Aegean Sea that were like 30 feet tall. Crazy. Powerful storm hit the Mediterranean island of Malta on February 24th with hurricane force winds and tidal surges all along the coast. And this is the same storm that caused the record gusts in Split, southern Croatia, which killed 4 people in central Italy, caused major floods and damage across the Greek island of Crete. Amazingly gorgeous part of the globe, amazingly beautiful. But anywhere by major bodies of water, you need to be aware of it, and need to be aware of the potential for what could happen. And an intense windstorm will hit western Norway tonight and tomorrow night on the 26th and the 27th. deep cyclonic area is moving across Iceland today, and I was pointing those out to you on Ventuski. How much cyclonic activity is going on. It's really wild. And this has given us part of our extremes, and I really do think it's reflecting what's going on in the interior. And so split records strongest wind gusts since measurements began in Croatia, as we had talked about. Whiteout conditions caused 4 multiple vehicle pileups in Ontario, Canada. As you can see, I mean, these massive, huge pileups going on because of the conditions, the wind, and, it still kills me. Was it yesterday? Yeah, we were on the road, no, the day before yesterday, and it's like we're on this little 2-lane, double yellow lines, and you're not supposed to pass, and it's one of those zigzaggy mountainous areas where you can't see who's around the other side. And a guy in a pickup truck, the speed limit's 25 because it's so ragged, and you're so apt to go right off the edge. And we're doing 25, maybe even 30, maybe even just a little bit over the speed limit, right? And this guy goes flying by at like 40, 45, and there's no way he could see just around the corner, and just taking, other people's lives in danger. And that really ticks you off. These people that want to save a few minutes of their life, endangering everybody else's life all around them by driving like an idiot, and especially in these type of conditions. So we had Wu-Tip, which was the first super typhoon to occur in February since 1911. Not only that, but it went to a Category 4, borderline Category 5, with 155 mile an hour winds. 156 is Category 5. Interesting, it's 155. That's what Hurricane Michael was when it hit Florida, 155. Interesting. They always look at the numerology and things. And so, again, it's reflective of the huge changes that we see. And so this large ice tsunami hits Hamburg, New York, and actually they were asking people to leave. And there's videos here for you guys to see, because there's a voluntary evacuation of Hoover Beach at this time. Residents at Hoover Beach can expect Woodlawn Fire Department to come door to door accounting for residents, because this massive wall of ice is heading towards your house, and it is threatening to engulf houses. This is pretty wild. And think about it. Think about what's going on here. Winds. Everything is going to be so wind driven. It's going to be breathtaking at times, this ride that we are on, and we are basically still going up the roller coaster. We're still, you can still hear that if you like the old school roller coasters. You know how that kind of clanks and then clunks as it goes up and up and up. We haven't gotten to the top yet. We're heading up the roller coaster still. Ice tsunami forces residents to evacuate along Lake Erie, and this is more of the and this is out of Pittsburgh, and more videos for you guys to check it out. And out of National Weather Service. Buffalo, dangerous winds, guys. Everywhere we look, dangerous winds. Many valley residents remain in the dark after strong winds, and so we see power lines down again, and over here talking about Penn Power. So this is over in Pennsylvania and Ohio. And so, what they do is they're giving us some tremendous seas, and I would love any of you sailors out there, you want to chime in and let us know what you're seeing if you've been out there. Anybody that's out there regularly in the oceans. I mean, look at these waves, mid 30s. And these seem to be going on for days at a time now. And up in here, even a little bit higher off the coast of Iceland. Pretty wild wave action that we're seeing. And still all this cyclonic activity going on as well. As you see, Wu-Tip over here. So if we look at snow cover, I wouldn't say that's extreme, not for February. And as you see the temperatures, here it's going to be in the low 60s. Beautiful. You see warm up a little bit over there in LA, give you guys a little reprieve. But the winds, guys, the winds. After a blustery Monday in DC area, winds will finally lighten up. And I wanted to just, show you guys some of these photos. It's just incredible how many cars have been damaged. There's a transformer fell on 2 parked cars. And the owner had just gotten home 5 minutes before it happened, thankfully, and reported wind gusts. And again, what are we going to see in the spring? And if it keeps increasing, what about a couple years from now? So North Texas researchers, food preservatives could make you lazy. And so even when you're going to buy something that you might not think has a lot of other things in it, like a bag of peanuts or something, check the ingredients and see what types of preservatives are in there. And question why? 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 And so researchers are looking at the long-term effects of food additives and preservatives and try to buy stuff that has, as preservative-free as possible and none of the artificial colors, because all these things affect your immune system. And so this research focused on inorganic phosphates, which are added to foods like cereals, packaged snacks, and sodas. Inorganic phosphates are added to foods to help preserve color, freshness, taste, and texture. These synthetic phosphates, like other food additives, are FDA approved and considered safe to eat. But many researchers say they don't really know the long-term effects, and things are accumulated. And they're accumulated from different places. So if you're taking in some in one type of food and you're taking it in somewhere else, maybe even in your vitamins, it'll amaze you what is put in things. And all this builds up, all this increases inflammation and immune response, and it does build up in our body. And so this is out of All News Pipeline. Links between mad cow disease and Alzheimer's are astounding. And they're saying out of here that perhaps it's a contagious disease as well. Some of the numbers as far as spouses of people with Alzheimer's getting Alzheimer's is vastly increased, which makes you wonder what's going on really. I think there's a lot of things going on here, perhaps exposure to aluminum and barium, for instance. And there could be other things going on as well. And as we're talking about, so many of these things are accumulative. And, this is getting into, as we were talking about, the zombie deer thing, and the mad cow thing and prions. And the CDC has warned about the zombie deer prions that are out there. And you can't really destroy prions, which is very, very, causes some apprehension there. And so especially if you are out in, like, say, Colorado and Wyoming and these areas, there's quite a bit of it going around. You can see up here in Pennsylvania and through West Virginia as well, and clusters of it in different locations. And just be aware of what could happen. And so sugar sweet spot linked to Alzheimer's disease discovered. And so as we had talked about, how do you feed some of these negative diseases, which are all about inflammation? Well, you feed them, unfortunately, through simple sugars. And when I was in the retirement communities, I knew of a relatively young lady that came to live with us, and she had a brain tumor, and she was a doctor herself. And she sent her caregiver every day over to get coffee for her. And, I one time noticed that her caregiver was putting in like 6 spoons of sugar, and I was like, I just kind of jumped at her and said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, she likes it sweet." And it's like, oh my God, gotta have a discussion with her, and she's a doctor. because that feeds cancer. Cancer feeds off of simple sugars. And they're showing here a link also with Alzheimer's. And again, it's about inflammation, because that increases inflammation, and it also makes you more acidic, and cancer thrives in an acidic environment. So we need to be working to make our bodies more alkaline every day, and that is really important. It's super, super important, especially for somebody that has been diagnosed with something like cancer. And there's so much stuff that we're exposed to every day, and it's very, very disconcerting, but it is the world that we live in. Most beers and wines tested are contaminated with glyphosate, and this is what's in Roundup, the weed killer. And even in our beers and our wines, it's full of it. And with wines, again, think sulfate-free as much as possible. Think organic with everything. You need to. And even with that, it's still, unfortunately, not a guarantee that there's not going to be some non-organic materials inside it. So of the 20 samples tested, 19 contained glyphosate. The highest level of glyphosate was in Suderholm wine, 51 parts per billion. And so results showed that some organic beer and wine even has it as well. And even though it's not allowed in organic farming, like this one here is Samuel Smith's Organic 3.5, so it still had some. It wasn't as bad, but it still had some in it. It's almost unavoidable. And then the large conventional brands like Coors, Qingchao, and Miller, they all showed much higher levels as well. And one brand, Peak Beer, did not contain detectable levels of glyphosate. So, this is something, this is one of those things that just is like added in. And here is a PDF for you guys to really go through, and this will give you the breakdown on it. It's all about the pesticides in the beer and the wine. And it's all, again, about chronic inflammation. And that's a factor in many age-related diseases caused by an imbalance in the gut. And think about, where do we get all these gut problems in the first place? Well, part of it is antibiotics. They're antibiotics, which is anti-life. And so it's basically like napalming your gut is what you're doing when you take antibiotics. You could think of it in that way. So then you need to reestablish, and it is heartening to see that many doctors now are actually prescribing and saying take probiotics after you take your antibiotics, because you have to balance the gut. You really do. The flora and the gut. It's so important. And again, most disease is dis-ease, and again, so much of it is related to chronic inflammation. And so, again, we need to balance this out and recognize what's going on. And in this world, we really do need to be detoxing pretty much on a daily basis. Now, coffee itself has medicine. HIV and Hep C patients who drink at least 3 cups per day have a much higher survival rate. So that's pretty interesting as well. And again, now don't go putting in 12 scoops of sugar into it. And I've shared with you guys, I never add sugar to like anything. If somebody is having tea and they say you want a little honey in your tea, and maybe I'll have that, but most of the time I just take it plain, because I like the taste of what the actual thing is. And we've gotten away from that. We've been conditioned to always look for sugar, and sweeten everything. And there are a lot of health benefits to many of the things that we are ingesting on a daily basis. And again, with coffee, go organic. Do not buy, I would strongly recommend not buying anything that's not organic. And even though perhaps the organic has some toxins in it, it's still going to be much, much better than the inorganic. And so new research discovers that patients suffering from HIV and Hep C who drank around 3 cups of coffee a day have a 50% higher chance of surviving. That's pretty significant and interesting as well. So, my friends, as always, thumbs up, support the channel. Thank you for being part of the family. Double check your subscriptions. Some people that have been with the channel forever, since the very beginning, have found that they're unsubscribed, and so they've been resubscribing. And click the bell so you get all the notifications. You actually have to click that little bell so you get all the notifications. Share with as many as possible. Let's keep waking people up to everything around us so that we could get stronger, healthier, and more prepared together. Because that's the key. We'll pick each other up through these times and we'll get through this. As always, my friends, God bless and namaste.